Hi guys, and welcome back to the 74th episode of the Junkie podcast. My name is Amber. I'm coming to you from my home in Texas, where I live with my husband and our 3 daughters and 3 dogs. Lay down. Lay down. My mastiff is thinking I'm talking to her. And if I keep looking over there, just out of camera range is the sleeping baby. She is my most high maintenance baby, and she will not sleep away from me. So she'll probably wake up at some point, but we'll try to get through most of this without her interference. So hi guys, it's been like 2 months since I last sat down and spoke with you. I don't know if I already said that. Lucy's gonna tiptoe over here now. Go lay down. Okay, so a lot has happened since I last sat down and recorded. All of the girls and myself had a birthday, so my 3 daughters are now 13, 8, and 1. That's crazy. I have a teenager, a child, and a baby. It is the best and the most chaotic time, I feel like, but we're all doing really well. We had Thanksgiving with my brother and my sister and their spouses. I'm the only one of my siblings that has children, and so it was great to see my family though. Both of my siblings are half siblings, and I feel like I need to say that because I also went and spent Christmas with my dad, but I am my dad's only child. So I'm an only child, but I also have siblings, if you needed to know that. But yeah, I hadn't seen my brother since my mom passed away in 2015, December 2015. He hasn't always made the best life choices, and so he's been incarcerated quite a few times in his adult life. And so yeah, it's hard. It's hard to have it because we were really close growing up. He's only 22 months older than me, and so I actually met my husband through my brother. Yeah, we were really close in high school and as children. So be that as it may, we spent Thanksgiving with them, and then Christmas we went and saw my dad, who's only about 2 hours away. We did not end up going skiing in New Mexico, which the kids were really bummed about, but it worked out for the better. This year was going to be, the baby is, like I said, very high maintenance, and it's quite a bit of a drive. I think it's about 14 hours, and it wasn't going to happen this year. Next year she'll be much more content and able to sit for that long period with like the girls will watch a movie or something on the tablet. A 1-year-old's not going to do that. A 2-year-old is going to be closer to that age where she is happy, like eating in her car seat. Like right now she's way too small for that. Like I would be worried about her choking or something. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but we had Christmas with my dad, who lives 2 hours away, and then we had Christmas with my husband's side of the family out here at the lake. His grandfather only lives about 5 minutes from us, and so his mom and dad and siblings or his sister and her children all came out, and we spent Christmas Day there. So it was just a really low-key Christmas. I really enjoyed it. Like I mentioned, the girls, they enjoyed it, they liked it, but they would definitely rather be skiing. So, my sister actually, kind of a little bit of acquisitions, she brought me this as a birthday present. My birthday's in November, right after Thanksgiving. So when she was here for Thanksgiving, she gifted me this, and as well as some stitch markers, which was really cool. She's always been a really good gift giver. And so the book was awesome enough because, I mean, what knitter doesn't want this in their library? But the fact that she got stitch markers means she did a bit of research, okay? She told me this story. We had just attended an event together in October, and I was knitting, and she saw a stitch marker, and she was like, well, what's that? And I explained what it was, and she said, oh, okay. It was a nothing conversation, right? But she had remembered it enough to be able to search out on Google stitch markers and go to an Etsy shop and buy me some I don't even have them on me, regrettably, just like little, the light bulb light bulb stitch markers. I don't have one. Oh yeah, here's one. Oops, I dropped it. You know what a light bulb stitch marker is, but it had like little beads and stuff on it. They're in next to my bed because I like to look at them and think of her and how awesome that was that she got me something knitting related. So yeah, and then New Year's Eve, actually, her and her husband came back out here and we cooked for them and set off fireworks and stuff. My brother lives a bit too far to make that journey. He's over 3.5 hours, I think, and my sister's only about an hour and a half, 2 hours. She speeds. She drives really fast because she'll tell me, oh, I'm on my way. And I'm like, oh, great. I have 2 hours to, deal with the kids and then get myself ready. And then she's here in like an hour and a half, which is not enough time. But I have done quite a bit of knitting, and I guess I'll jump right in and get to that after 6 minutes of me rambling on about stuff. This is also related in kind of acquisitions. So Santa brought me this knitting stitch dictionary alternate 200 modern knitting motifs. And I originally wanted this because I really want to make our stockings for Christmas. So every year at Christmas when I'm decorating, and I know so many people are sick of hearing about Christmas, but it's making related, I promise. Every year at Christmas when I'm decorating, I stumble across, a few handmade items that I've made. Like I have a little Christmas tree, a few knit and crocheted ornaments that I've made, right? Just stuff. And every year I think, oh, I wish I would have had more handmade stuff because it's so enjoyable to look back and reflect and say, oh, well, I made this at this time. Like I have a tiny little crocheted mushroom. No, it's actually, a knit mushroom that I made after we went on spring break. This was like before my third was born. We went for one spring break we have land in East Texas. We live in West Texas. I usually mention this, but if you're new to the podcast, I'm about an hour and a half outside of Fort Worth. And so we also have land on the other side of Texas, probably an hour outside of Tyler, which is an hour-ish southeast of Dallas. Because Dallas, Fort Worth, that's pretty common knowledge. That's like north central Texas. So my point to this is the Christmas decorations. I have this little mushroom that I knit after our camping trip out to East Texas for spring break. And so whenever I put that little ornament on the tree, I just have this nostalgic feelings about that time in our lives. And I just want more of that, I just want to have more items to reflect on towards the end of the year because that really brings me a lot of joy and brings the kids a lot of joy too. Like they love setting up the things that they've made for school projects and different things. We have a lot of handprints and like you do when you have kids. So I originally got this book so I can knit all of my family stockings, the 5 of us. And my husband has thoughts, okay? I have been showing him pictures on Ravelry, like, oh, look at this stocking. Can I knit you this? Can I knit you this? And he is adamant. So he used to have a handmade stocking that was made by his grandmother when he was very small or even a baby. But it wasn't even like, I know a lot of people have those old timey kits with like the felt ornaments that are, sewn on differently or like, they're puffy stockings. So his parents have stockings like that, and I made a Trello one when she was a baby. I bought it, but I hand sewed sequins and beads. I wish I had kept these out when we put up the Christmas decorations. But he was adamant, like, okay, his stocking had an accident. We have moved a lot, and when all of our stuff was in storage at some point, a rodent had eaten up his stocking. So I tossed it. Because it's useless. Fast forward to every single holiday since then, every time we get out the Christmas decorations, he has things to say about the fact that now he doesn't have a handmade stocking. It's just a store-bought Snowman stocking, and he hates it. He wants his stocking back, which he can't have his stocking back. I have volunteered to make him one from those kits that you can buy like at Joann's or Hobby Lobby or online. and he wants nothing to do with it. He wants his stocking. And so Atrella had been gifted a bunch of different fabrics and even like novelty yarn. The fabrics came from her grandmother, my mother-in-law. But the novelty yarn came from a friend of mine, and I'm not sure if she watches podcasts. I don't think she does. But hi, Debbie, if you're watching this. Debbie is the one that gifted Atrella like bags of just novelty yarns. Let me grab the thing that I'm talking about. That would be helpful. You got a nice little shot of the top of my head, I'm sure. Okay, so Atrella was gifted all of these fabrics. So I thought that I would sew Tim a stocking as close to his original as I could get. And I have pictures and things to go off of. And so Atrella had this fabric in her fabric stash she was gifted. And it's just this small piece. But I think I can get like the front of a stocking out of it, because his was like this kind of velvety green material, and this is more of a navy, but it's not enough for a front and back. And so she also had this burgundy, like velvety corduroy. I don't even know. I'm not a fabric person. I have actually sewn quite a bit of things. I used to hand make all of Atrella's Halloween costumes when she was little, when I had one child and oodles of time. And, you know, when she got old enough, she just wanted store-bought costumes, which, whatever. And then I never have actually handmade a costume since her. And then I'm talking like, I had no skill, but all of the belief in myself. Her, when she was about 3, I think, she wanted to be Snow White. So I bought like satin fabric and velvety fabric and this really big, I made a really big collar with interfacing, and like, I knew nothing about sewing. I did buy a pattern and, you know, cut it out, but like satin is hard to sew with, and it looked amazing. I mean, it looked like somebody handmade it. I'm not, Hey Sister Yarn Co. Tabby and Rachel, like their hand makes, their hand sewn items are like something I would buy in a store. I'm not at that skill level at all, but I have faith in my ability. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I am going to buy a stocking pattern or just print out a template online to sew a stocking. So this is going to be the front, this is going to be the back. And I thought that this would even make a very nice interior if I need to line it. And I thought this would be fun for something. I don't know what I was originally thinking, but this fabric is with this other fabric, so I want to keep it there, but it's like this felty. Oh, I was going to make a project bag with it. I was going to try my hand at a project bag. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that is some fabric that I have pilfered from Atrella, and she didn't mind me taking some fabric for myself because she got a lot of it. And I mentioned novelty yarn. So she had this, and I mean, this is exactly, it was more garlandy, like the plastic garland that you can buy. His stocking, the tree, he had a stocking with like a Christmas tree on it with like ornaments, button-like ornaments glued on. That's what Tim's stocking looked like. So this reminds me so much of that garland, and I could either crochet or even just like double it up and kind of glue it on there on the front of the stocking so it looks like a Christmas tree. So this is going to be a project that it's January 31st now, so I have plenty of time before Christmas to get this made and gift it to him. I think that he will be blown away. I really hope that it turns out as I'm envisioning it. So I'll keep you posted on that. In addition to that stocking that I want to make, I also want to knit me and the girls' stockings, but the modern knitting motif book that I got, and by girls, I mean me, Tabitha, and Prudence. Did I talk about changing the baby's name? I also separated all of my Christmas yarn and put it in this box so I will knit more ornaments. Like I showed you guys these last episode, leftovers from the sweater that I knit for the baby. And I want to make like a gnome. I want to make just Christmassy things. And so I put all of my all of my Christmas yarn in here, and I hope to just keep the Christmas spirit alive throughout the year. So on the name front, if you've been following me for a while, or if you follow my personal Instagram account, which is 3Lassies, I'm also _yarn junkie on Instagram, which is by far my most active social media. I mentioned that I just really, for a year, so the baby turned a year in December. It's December 20th. And I've never felt like Ruby was her name. That's what we named her. We went to the hospital with no name. We've not fought, but like had discussions about what her name should be, and neither one of us really agreed. And I loved Tabitha from the moment I was pregnant, and I hoped it was girl so I could use the name Tabitha. And I feel like Tabitha fits in well with Estrella and Prudence, which are my other two daughters' names. And I think the name for Tim was ruined by the show Bewitched, which, I mean, that's an old show. I think a lot of people of my mom's generation, when I mention that name to them, think of Bewitched, but I don't think people of our generation and younger are going to automatically think of the little girl in the witchy show that was like, I don't know when it aired, maybe in the 60s or 70s. Anyway, so he's adamant that he likes Ruby and calls her Ruby. I call her Tabitha, and I have for about 2 months now. And the girls are divided too. So Estrella, which is the 13-year-old, she calls her Ruby or Tabitha, depending on the day. And then Prudence always calls her Tabitha with me. And so people think I'm crazy. I've had family members and people on the internet give me their thoughts on me changing my baby's name at a year old. But it's my baby, and I'm the one that spends the most time with her. And I can look at her and see Tabitha. And I don't feel like she's a Ruby. I love the name. I definitely want to keep it. So when we did leave the hospital, she only had the first name, her first and then last name. And I feel like we can hold on to Ruby and make it her middle name and then call her Tabitha. So we'll see what she says when she gets older, if she's a Ruby or a Tabitha. But so if I say Tabitha, that's who I'm talking about, my baby that most people know as Ruby. And a lot of people said it's going to be a big adjustment. But with my oldest, her name is Estrella, and we actually called her Addie for the first 5 years of her life, just as a nickname. A-T-T-I is how we spelled it. But when she would tell people her name, she'd get really upset because they would call her Allie or Abby. And she explained that that's not her name. And I said, well, Addie isn't either. And ever since then, she went as Estrella. And it was really difficult for everyone around her to call her a new name. But Estrella is her name. So that's a lot of rambling. And I've showed you almost no knitting. I'm so sorry. If you're still here, hi friends. I will show you some knitting now. So the last episode, I showed quite a bit of stuff. I mentioned this project, but I didn't have it on hand to show you guys. And so this is and it's a mess because the baby was playing with my yarn in my project bag. It keeps her happy so I can like get something done or do some knitting or, whatever. But this yarn is some deep stash that I had, and I originally thought that I would want to do a shawl with these 3 colors. I even think it was going to be like one of the Stephen West shawls, but I don't remember which one now. But then I was obsessed with, I think someone on Instagram posted this sweater, which is the Little's Jelly Roll sweater. And I believe it's Myra Catherine Briner is the designer behind it. And it's a paid pattern on Ravelry. I bought this one and the adult version. So I just thought it was going to be so sweet with these colors. I started it so she would have a Halloween sweater back in October. You guys know me. I start things and I get to a certain point and I'm like trucking along, right? Knitting and loving it. And then suddenly I'm just like, okay, I'm going to set that to the side and begin something new. Someone on my Instagram recently posted, it's not called knitting. It's not called finishing. It's called knitting. And I like that. So this is a rolled neckline, and you do 2 different ones and then join them and then do color work, and it's stockinette body. And the ribbing was really interesting. I learned a new technique, which is the fisherman's rib, and it looks a lot like brioche, but it's not brioche. So this is the outside and the green is the inside. It's fisherman's rib, and it's super like non-structured ribbing. So you know how ribbing usually like tucks in? This is very loose. It just like kind of makes it flare out, which I really like this a lot. The technique was fun, very easy and simple. I kind of put this on hold because I didn't want to have the headspace to figure out fisherman's rib, and it was the most simple thing. So when I picked it back up again, I quickly knit a sleeve, picked up the next sleeve, and just got burnt out on it, so I began something else. But it has the fisherman's rib on the sleeve too, and I like them cuffed, and I hope this fits her next year. I feel like it will. I can't remember what size I knit, but she's 1 now, so probably the 1 to 2 year size, if that's a size on it. And I really hope it fits her. But I'll give you a close-up of the yarns and then I'll talk about them. So the purple and the green is not really yarn that you can get now unless you search like Ravelry D-stashes. This was a one-of-a-kind, which is just a purple, like a tonal purple color. It's beautiful. And then this one was part of a Halloween Club colorway, and these are both from Cat's Kettle. And she was a dyer and also a podcaster that was around for a while, and then she sort of just disappeared. And I've reached out a few times, and I hope she's well. But yeah, she's just not around anymore, which, you know, life gets busy. She had young kids, so she had a young kid. But I also want to talk about my needle minder. Oh, my pink yarn. This is the Hedgehog Fibers potluck colorway. So it's like oranges and purples and pinks, and I love this. And I feel like I'm going to have plenty left over to make a Harlow hat with the purple and the pink for the baby to match her sweater. I love that purple. It's like so moody and beautiful. So this is an acquisition. My little needle minder, this beautiful Succulents fabric, so realistic. I have a lot of houseplants, and I have a green thumb, and I've had outdoor gardens before. I haven't done great in Texas with an outdoor garden, but I have a lot of houseplants. And I have tried to keep succulents so many times. I've had one survive me 6 months. I'm looking at it right now. It's on the kitchen windowsill. And it's 6 months old. But like, I've probably murdered a dozen succulents, and it breaks my heart because I love them. And so that fabric, Molly Klein Designs is the one that made that needle minder. And when she posted it to her Instagram, I went straight to her shop and bought it right away. So more projects that I'm working on, or that I was working on. I started knitting the girls' mittens. So this is Prudence's mitten, and this is Atrella's mitten. Look how pathetic this is. I wanted this for something else, the needle. This is pathetic. But I knit Atrella, one mitten with no thumb, and I knit Prudence, one mitten with no thumb. I actually think I can put Prudence's glove on too. It's just too small. Okay. These were to be Christmas presents for them. Obviously, I fail as a mother because they don't have mittens. We have had a very mild winter this year, and they just really haven't worn much knitwear, so I just haven't really felt like knitting them much. But I did start the second blue one. As you can see, I took the needles off of it for something else. This sweater I'm working on. So that is that project. I also began Atrella a hat that I'm frogging. I really love this pattern, but I don't feel like it's the right yarn for the pattern. It's got cables and seed stitch. I can't remember what the pattern is called. It's by somebody. I'm sorry. But I don't really like the yarn that I'm using for that. So that's going to be frogged, and I'll remake it in the future. But that's that project. I've also been working on, I started another Scrappy blanket. You guys, I can't even tell you how many Scrappy blankets I have. So everyone and their mother has started the Northeasterly blanket, which I'm no exception. And I saw one that was like rainbows and white, like checkers. I loved it so much. But I went through all of my minis and separated all of the blue ones. So this bag is not a small bag. It's by Freckled Whimsy. And it is full of minis, all different little sizes and things. And I thought it would be really cool just to do a blue. I've been in a very big blue mood lately. Just blues, Scrappy blanket. So forgive me, my eyes like itching so bad. This is how much I have done, but I had to cast it on and begin it, and I'm loving knitting it. So I started it and loved knitting it as I was working on it, and then I was like, okay, I have 2 little sections done. I can move on because that's my life. What else have I been working on? So I did put some work in on my Sunset Highway. I talked about my yarns last episode, so if you're curious about what I'm using, just go check that. But I believe it's still wrinkled because, again, it's wadded up in a project bag, and I haven't touched it in probably 2 weeks. But it is getting so long and so amazing. I think I was about here last time I showed you. So I've knit about 4 or 5 inches, and I have about 4 or 5 inches to go before I start the short row shaping and then the ribbed hem. But I really love this, and I can't wait to have it finished. It will be finished for fall 2019 for sure. And I have plans that I mentioned this last time to knit Tabitha one as well. I found the most beautiful like Christmas themed yarns to be able to make her one for her 2nd birthday. She's gonna be so cute. Okay, so I've also been working on I worked on since last episode, my Little Cabin pullover. So this is Little Cabin by Caitlin Hunter, and I mentioned last episode that I'd been really wanting a tartan French supply bag. And so when the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted thing was happening on Instagram, I reached out and said, can someone please destash their tartan bag to me if you have one? And I got one right before my birthday, which was super exciting, like my little treat myself for my birthday. So this is the Little Cabin pullover, and I love this pattern. I was trucking along on it. I think I was around here the last episode. So I've knit quite a bit on it. It's a top up pattern. So you knit the body up to the armpits, and then you knit the arms, and then you join them to knit the yoke. And I've never done that type of construction on a sweater, and I'm really enjoying it. And I definitely want to get this finished and knit one for the baby as well. Just a bobbled something for her. Yeah, I originally cast this on because I thought it would be beautiful to wear this in New Mexico when we go skiing, but since we did not go this year, it just kind of fell to the wayside, and I was like, well, we're not going, so I don't need to knit this sweater. It's a worsted weight. I'm knitting this in Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, colorway Fossil. In Texas, our weather is very iffy, so you might wear a worsted weight sweater a couple of times a year, or you might not wear one at all. So it's been a very mild winter this year, and I've gotten by with my DK weight cardigan just fine. I have not even worn a coat this year. I take that back. I wore a coat on New Year's Eve. It was pretty cold, and we were outside popping fireworks. So I'm going to take a sip. I've been talking for 30 minutes now. What else have I been working on? This was my Christmas Eve cast on. So I cast on my Gingerbread House socks by Jinx Yarn, and Jinx Yarn isn't dying anymore, and Gingerbread House was probably one of her more popular colorways, so I'm not even sure you can get this on D-Stash because most of the people that have it won't give it up. But I started these I really love her yarn. I have quite a bit of it, but she's not dyeing anymore, which makes me really sad. So I really enjoyed working on these while I was knitting away on them. I probably knit them for the week after Christmas leading up to New Year's Eve, and then you know me, guys. But on the cuff, I did a one stitch cable to make it look like icing. So the girls and I do a gingerbread house every year, and I really enjoyed the way that kind of looked like frosting. And this is a Madeline Tosh sock yarn with a colorway antler, which just kind of, it's a natural just like that section. And with the stitch pattern, I'm knitting until I get to a color change, and then I'm knitting 3, slipping 1 for 2 rows. I've done this pattern before, and the last time I did it, I just did the knit 3, slip 1 for 1 round, and it wasn't really a noticeable slip stitch. It just kind of blended in after a few wears of the sock, and so I really wanted that to pop, and so I did it for 2 rounds. And I got to the point where I was putting in the heel on these, and I just kind of stopped because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a dropped heel or a fish lips kissed heel or an afterthought heel. But now that they've sat for a bit, I think that I'm going to go ahead with the afterthought heel. And I have a little gingerbread stitch marker guy hanging out, and I'm knitting these on Knit Pro Zings in the 1 or 2.25 millimeter size. And I like how they're color coordinated or color coded, so you kind of know what size you have just by looking at your needles. I don't really have that many Knit Pro Zings, but I will definitely buy more. I like them as a needle. And I have that in my little Llama Christmas project bag. So I honestly probably won't touch those socks for another, maybe until July. What's July called? Knitmas in July? I think that's what it's called. So I also began some new projects, like you do. I started a cardigan for Atrella. So I've had this yarn for a long time, easily 2 years, maybe even 3. And I got it off of Etsy from Lemonade Shop, and it is the Goldfish colorway. And when I got it, I got 4 skeins of yarn. And it was before I really knew a lot about hand-dyed yarns and the nature of, so maybe it's even been 3 years, the nature of hand-dyed yarns and how you should alternate skeins. And I was a little disgruntled. Actually, my friend Molly remembered that I was irritated on one of my very early episodes. I was a little irritated that one of the skeins was so much lighter than the others. So 3 matched pretty well, and then 1 was just, I don't know, it's kind of washed out because of the window. 1 was really much lighter. And so I kind of just buried it in the stash because I didn't want to think about it or deal with it. But Atrella has been asking for a sweater for quite a while, and I thought, oh, I'll just go ahead and knit her a cardigan because that's what she was wanting. And I kind of looked around for patterns, and I wanted something kind of mindless because, as I've said before, knitting is my relaxation, especially with a small baby. Like, I don't really want to have to fuss with stuff or think about things too much. And so I began this, and it was so simple. This is the Campside Cardi by Alicia Plummer, I believe, but I'm just omitting the eyelet rounds completely and just knitting a very open style, simple, raglan shaped cardigan. I am in love. And so when I began this, I decided I wasn't even going to alternate skeins. Who cares? It's going to look cool no matter what. This top portion is 1 skein, and then this where it's much more speckled with the orange is another. And I don't even feel like you can tell that much of a difference other than this one's more speckled. And I'm going to use that lighter color for the ribbing neckband, the cuffs, and the ribbing on the bottom, the hem. And yeah, I've been chugging along on this. I think that I mentioned, did I say? I started this a week ago, and I am probably 3 inches before the bottom ribbing, so it's flying off my needles. And it's just the perfect thing to just work on at night. It's very light colored, so I can see. I'm having a hard time with my vision lately, which is annoying. So I also began my Tecna, and I had the pattern and I cannot find it, and that's so frustrating. I think the baby did something with it, but this is another pattern by Caitlin Hunter. If you don't know what the Tecna is, it's this very simple lace, not lace. It's this very simple stockinette body with this just lace trim, very like a small section, maybe 3 inches of lace. And I said it was by Caitlin Hunter, the Tecna. If you don't know, go look at it on Instagram or Ravelry. Tons of people have made it, so I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I got to thinking about DFW Fiber Fest is coming up, which is in April, the beginning of April, and it's the very end of January right now. And I really wanted to have something new to wear that made me feel I still have quite a bit of weight from baby weight. And I just feel frumpy in a lot of my clothes right now, and nothing fits right. And I'm wearing like leggings and black t-shirts all the time. So I wanted something just elegant that would make me feel nice. And I'm knitting the smallest size, but it's kind of oversized. So I think it's perfect for my body shape right now. And that's how far along I am. And I'm using an amazing yarn. I'm using Lolo Did It, the Dreamy base, and it is, again, my eyes. I need to make an eye doctor appointment because, like, I can't read the knitting needles anymore. I have a really hard time with that, like, super fine print, and if the lighting is not just right, I can't read it at all. I've been having to use my needle gauge thingamabobber. Tim thinks it's really hilarious because he's worn glasses for probably 10 years, and every couple of years he's like, oh, you need an eye exam, so you're going to have to get glasses now. And I've taken eye exams, and I've never needed glasses. And so now at 34, I feel like I need glasses, and he's been laughing at me. But the base of this yarn, I say that because it's hard for me to read this label. Where is it? I've turned it over 5 times. Okay. 70% superwash merino, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. And it is called Dreamy, and it is so dreamy. Lolo Did It is the yarn, and Folsom is the colorway. And I love it. It has this really beautiful silky sheen, but it's like soft with the cashmere. It's going to be perfect for our climate here in Texas. I feel like I'm going to get so much wear out of this. It's going to be so elegant and beautiful in this charcoal gray. And it's like I said, January 31st. Fiberfest is the beginning of April. That's 2 months. That's 2 solid months to get this knit. I feel like in reality, that's plenty of time. In Amberland, I just really hope I don't get distracted by something and cast it to the side because I want this FO. It's definitely a product knit for me as opposed to a process knit. Like this cardigan is a process knit, but also a product knit because the Trello will be happy. But the process is really enjoyable to me. This less so, because lace needs a lot of attention from me. Like I'm giving up lace knitting time right now because the only time I can do it is in bright light, especially with dark yarn in bright light while the baby naps. Because if my kids are home or if the baby's awake, forget about it. I can't deal. That's a lot of rambling for that project. So I think I'm to acquisitions now. This beautiful bag that I had 2 projects in, actually 3. I cast this on, but I'm not going to talk about it. It's a sweater for the baby. I'm frogging it and starting something else. So that's 1 project. This is 2 projects. This is 3 projects that I have in this amazing bag. This is by Tanny Casey. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. It bothers me. She's on Etsy. So there is her tag. If you can see that, hopefully you can. So Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady posted a progress picture of one of her projects the other day and had a bag similar to this sitting, you know, curated nicely in the photo like you do on Instagram. And I really loved the style of the bag. And so I immediately went on, she tagged the maker, luckily. I immediately went on Etsy and tracked this down because I've been searching. Kay's was Rifle Paper Company too, but it was a different fabric than this. I've been searching for this fabric in a project bag for a while. I am obsessed with this fabric, but I'd never found a bag that was just right or that, you know, sang my heart song. But this one definitely checked off all the boxes. So it has this really great wax canvas bottom, which is awesome because I have dogs and small children, and yeah. And this is a heavy canvas bag. So and it has drawstrings, and it has a pocket on the interior, and it's huge. Like, I have project ADD, so I need to have, you know, options. Like, maybe I don't want to knit lace right now. Maybe I want to knit stockinette, or maybe I want to begin a baby sweater. And so it's got tons of room, a pattern pocket, which my Tecna was in there, and I think the baby disappeared it. I looked for it a little earlier. And I feel like this is a great bag. I even have a little handle from another bag that I can click on this. So that's the only thing for me. Like, this bag is perfect, but if it had one of those like leather handles, like a fringe bag, this would be my bag, you know? That's the only thing it needs. But it doesn't even really need that, because I can knot this. I'm going to wax poetic about this bag because, for real, it's so beautiful. I love it. So Tanny Casey, go check her out on Etsy and Instagram and see if she has wax canvas totes too. Like, she's a really beautiful maker, I think. So that's that bag. And also other acquisitions that I've got. So when I ordered my needle minder from Molly Klein Designs, a needle minder cannot travel from Indiana all the way to Texas by itself. It might get scared or lonely. So a skein of yarn had to come out of her shop into my stash, and she is the dyer behind Sweet Tea Yarns. I love that little tag. And this is Sweet Sock, 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, 460 yards. And this is one of my favorite sock bases. I don't know that this will be socks. It doesn't really have a plan. I'm waiting for it to tell me what it wants to be when it grows up. But it's this really beautiful tonal blue with these really great brown speckles. So we'll see what happens. If you can see this, I'm currently dream knitting. Mina Phillip, the knitting expat, has a new design called the waffle stitch pullover. I think that's what she's called it. And so I went stash diving because she knits it with 5 different skeins of fingering weight yarn. And this doesn't really match my second one. That's my dream knitting right now on that. But this is just, I don't think this will go in that. We'll see what happens with this when I come to it. I also, when I got that needle minder, I immediately messaged her and I was like, please tell me you have more of this fabric. I need a project bag with this fabric in my life. And Molly has great customer service, and she got back to me right away, told me to let her check, and she did have more beautiful succulent fabric to make me a project bag. And here's her beautiful little tag, Molly Klein Designs. And it has this little green ribbon for a handle and a little leather pull on the zipper. And she also sent me treats. I got some candy and tea and this cool little Christmas tree soap that's evergreen, green tea, and natural fragrance. So that's really cute. And when I got the project bag, I couldn't let it travel alone. So I ordered her mystery skein set, Christmas at Sweet Tea Yarns mini skein set. And this is baking cookies, eggnog, snow day, holly jolly, candy cane, and Christmas tree. And I don't know for sure what each one is. I'm pretty sure this is Christmas tree and this is candy cane. And how fun will those be to make Tabitha a pair of like Dobby socks, so mismatched socks for Christmas next year. I thought those would be really fun because they're all 90 yards, 20 grams each. And I also just I kind of undid this one. Really love this one. It's like this speckled, nudie, green and red speckles on a nude yarn or a bear or cream colored yarn. So in this one, I really want to make the girls like something with this. Maybe this is enough to do like mittens for the baby with like this as the cuff and then these is the little hand part. So what else have I gotten? So my mom, I've said so like 25 times now, I'm sorry. I'm going to press pause, the baby's awake. Okay, so now I'm joined by my little grumpy-faced co-host that just woke up from a nap. But I only have a few more things to show you guys while I have you here. So hopefully she kind of stays happy while I do that. What do we think? Are you going to stay happy? Yeah. Okay. So my mom's birthday is January 15th, and as I mentioned earlier in the episode, she passed away quite suddenly. Oh. It was really hard for my siblings and I because we didn't expect it at all. She wasn't sick. She had a heart attack. It was like here one day and gone the next. Did I say she was only 49? It was quite sudden and unexpected. And so on her birthday, I like to distract myself, to get out of my own head and go and do something for me. And so where do you go for retail therapy but your local yarn store? And actually, while I was in there perusing the yarn, a mother-daughter had come in to shop, which, you know, you run into mothers and daughters everywhere you go. It's not, I can't live in a bubble. But it was really hard because I was getting out of the house to not think about her or to at least honor her in a way that would make her happy, like by going and shopping for myself. And I run into a mother and daughter, and like that's something that my mom and I used to always do, is go shopping and hang out. And so it was a little bit bittersweet to see them because I was happy that they were doing something that my mother and I enjoyed doing, but it was also like, oh, come on, like I don't want to think about my mom right now. I just want to shop for yarn, which is whatever, selfish of me, I guess. But so I went in because West 7th Wool just got in this amazing tote bag from Twiggy Horn. So I asked them to hold one for me. They had a bunch of different colors: navy, olive, caramel, and khaki. And these are made in Portland, Maine, I believe with U.S. sourced materials. So there's leather handles and a leather cross-body strap. And the handles are really great because they're not like handheld handles. They're like straps to go on your shoulder, which this is my preferred way to carry a bag, especially like when I'm carrying a baby. And purses for me, I'm not a big purse person, but I really love utilitarian style bags like this because it is huge, but also compact. Like it's not, this is how I carry it. And it's like, you know, it's not as full as it usually is. I usually have a little bit more in it, but it's small enough to not be cumbersome when I'm also toting around a baby, because that's a big thing for me. So the handles are amazing, but the pockets are what really sold me. So this is my thermos, and I can slide it in the pocket. I also have giant REI water bottles that fit in here. And it has pockets on both sides, which is really handy because I also put baby bottles baby bottles fit down in the pockets. And I think on one side my wallet is in here. It's just so amazing to me. I'm going to go on and on about this bag. And so it's heavy duty canvas, Twiggy Horn. It's also got interior pockets. So I emptied out a lot of it, but I had a pair of sunglasses on this side and then a little, like a notepad with a pen right here because it's the perfect size. And then it has the same pockets on the opposite side. And then on the interior, so right now I have a giant, it's not giant, it's a big piece of fabric, but you can't even really tell. So it's separated on the inside by this interior pocket, and you have the same amount of room on either side. And the interior pocket actually has grommets and a heavy duty zipper, so you can secure a project in there in between your purse stuff from your knitting stuff. And I have this is a baby carrier, so it's a ring sling, and I put it, on one shoulder and she fits down in it. But this is something that I carry around everywhere I go, so I don't have to have the dead arm from holding her. And yeah, this was from West 7th Wool. Twiggy Horn also has an online shop, or I think a lot of yarn stores carry Twiggy Horn products. So that was a kind of treat myself item, but I needed it too. So super happy with that. I also, when going in, I wanted to get some yarn. Oh, that's a cute face. To go in a throwback sweater, a throwback cardigan. So the throwback cardigan is by Andrea Mallory, and it was released last year, and a lot of people wore it to Rhineback, and that's, I think, when I was really adamant that I needed to knit that and bought the pattern, when I saw all the Rhineback versions. So I've had this yarn in my stash for quite a while, since Madtosh in Fort Worth went out of business, which I want to say was 3 years ago. And this is a Swan's Island Natural Colors Collection, 100% organic merino wool. And it is just this, did I say it's worsted weight? And it's the colorway Shell, which is kind of this like neutral grayish green. So it's gray, but it's definitely got greeny undertones. And I have 5 skeins of this. So I needed yarn to go in the color work portion, which the pattern calls for spin cycle yarns, but lots of people have used other yarns. I would have liked to use spin cycle, but it's pretty pricey. And so I ended up settling for Madlintosh, settling for Madlintosh yarn. So this is their Farm Twist, which is 100% merino wool. And this is actually DK weight, but I feel like it's going to plump up really well, and it will be fine to pair this with my worsted. This is the first skein that I picked up, and I actually didn't end up taking the Swan's Island with me to color match, which is a rookie move, but this is the first skein that I picked up, and it's Matcha. Isn't that a tea? Matcha is the colorway, and it's this like tonal gray, neutral with these like pops of this beautiful mustard color. And then this was sitting right next to it, and I was like, yes, that's perfect. And the yellowy is called Foundry, and I love that mustard color. I do have a sweater's quantity in yarn, a fingering weight yarn in this, but it's a little bit lighter, like a golden, it's daffodil, but same dyer, Madlintosh. And so once I had these two, three is a hard match for me. Like I can do 2 really easily, but like once you start going 3 different colors of yarn, it's hard for me. So this one, I just love this green. This acidy green is one of my favorite colors, or this swampy green, I guess, not really acidy green. It's more like swamp moss green. But look, it's got the little shots of mustard in there as well. So I thought, that's it. That's the one. And it's called Librarian's Dream, which is actually really funny because Amy, I don't know if she watches, Hi, Amy, if you're watching. The owner of West 7th Wool used to be a librarian, I think. And so that's going to be my throwback sweater at some point. You know, I start sweaters and then they take, you know, two years to be completed, whatever. But I think that is all I have to show you guys. I've been talking for 55 minutes. I have been reading quite a bit. I think I've already read 4 books for the month of January, which is insane. But I had started Game of Thrones. I'd mentioned in previous podcasts that I'd never watched a Game of Thrones show. It's an HBO show. And I still haven't, but I really wanted to read the books. I've heard the show's really great. I still want to watch it. I just haven't had, my husband doesn't, and that's the only time I watch TV is with him. Otherwise, I'm watching like a podcast while folding laundry. And so it's hard for me to find time to watch stuff like that. But so I started reading the books. I actually got the first book many times from my local library, and I never could move past the first few pages because there's a lot of information in the book. It drones on, and I don't like stories like that so much, whereas like I want the story to start, not like the information overload. So I eventually just got the audiobook from the library thinking, oh, I'll just listen to it. But it's hard. Again, it's not age appropriate. It's not children appropriate. So it's not something I can listen to with my children. I have to listen to it on my drive back from school or to school, which only gives me about an hour of listening time a day. So I wanted to spend, as soon as I started listening to it, I was hooked. And I wanted to spend more time with the story. Did you just poke yourself in the eye? Don't do that. I wanted to spend more time with the story. And so my library did not have the first book anymore. I guess someone didn't return it or lost it. So I ordered the paperback off of Amazon. This is the first book, Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin. I'm obsessed. I listened to most of it and then started reading it. And I'm obsessed with the story. Like, I cannot wait to know what happens. I love the characters. I am 100% invested in this now. And I want to read the books, though, before I start watching the show. I'm just a purist that way. I have to, if there is a book, and I know about it, because there's been plenty of movies that I've watched first and then went back and read the book. I really want to read the book. So all the books, I think there's 6 or 7 books. I don't know. I'm so excited. But yeah, and I've read other books as well. And one that I read, so it's right here. A Court of Thorns and Roses is a series. It has 3 books so far. And then this one, A Court of Frost and Starlight. I actually bought this the same day I went to my local yarn store on my mom's birthday. They have a new local bookstore just like a couple of doors down from West 7th Wool. And I'd been wanting this, and it was marked on my Amazon to purchase it, but I just had never bought it. Because I really like to try to get books from the library before I buy them. Certain books I don't mind buying, like knitting pattern books and stuff, but for the most part, unless I just have really enjoyed the series, like A Court of Thorns and Roses, I want to own those books now. And Atrella owns all of the Percy Jackson series books because she loved the story so much, and she's read them more than once. So the local bookstore had only this book. They didn't have the rest of them. Maybe they had one of the others. But A Court of Thorns and Roses, and it's like, that's the first book, and I can't remember the titles to the second two. But A Court of Frost and Starlight is a kind of like in-between book, because the third one came out, I don't even know when, and there's supposed to be a 4th one. Or maybe this is the 4th one, and there's like a 5th one. I think this is like a little medium, like teasers to the storyline, though. The author just had a baby. She talks about it in like the epilogue, I think. And I want the next book to come out because I want to devour the story. I've really enjoyed reading this. If you like, whimsical romance adventures, it's kind of your thing. It's about fairies and whatever. It's a young adult book, but I've totally enjoyed it. So yeah, that's all I've talked like for an hour now, so I think that's plenty. I've been knitting tons. I hope you enjoyed catching up with me, and yeah, just let me know what your making plans are for 2019, and I will catch you hopefully in another month. Hopefully I can upload in February. That would be great. It all depends on this little chunky-cheeked baby back here. Tabitha, say bye-bye. Say see you next time. Can you blow kisses? So she's not walking yet, but she does really cute things. We do baby sign language, and so she can say more and eat and milk, and those are the only 3 she can do. But she loves my project bags and to mess with my yarn. You say bye-bye. Can you blow kisses? All right. Catch y'all next time.